Today I'd like to talk a little bit about resentment. Are you up for it? I think we could say that the monastic Sangha is a community that strives to live in harmony and mindfulness. We seek to live in a monastic Sangha so that we can live with like-minded people, to share our happiness and also to share some of our struggles, and also to share our responsibilities in our spiritual life. The Sangha supports our aspirations to live in awareness, where we can be really nourished as individuals as well as a community, and where we can be given the space to begin healing our wounds and transforming our suffering and increasing our joy and our wisdom. But as we live in the Sangha for a longer time and we take a deeper look, we realize that the real aim of Sangha is so much more. It's complete transformation, isn't it? And it's a process that at times is extremely demanding and challenging of transforming our whole self. So true Sangha is a rich environment for spiritual growth. At times it can be fun, even relaxed, playful. At times it can be quite demanding, challenging, irritating. And each of us brings our own internal habits that act as hindrances to creating harmony in a monastic community. It's hard not to. For some, it tends to be attachment. We're attached to reputation or approval, attachment to having things our own way, that dang spatula. We all have our own spatula that has to go in the right place. So their attachment to being right, that's certainly one I know. That gets in my way of living in harmony with others. For others, it runs more towards anger. How do we react when things don't go our way or when we perceive that we've been harmed by another Sangha member? We might get angry. We might experience jealousy. We might hold on to grudges and resentment or succumb to spite and harsh words at times. So at UU, we've been covering this chapter on letting go of grudges and resentment, and it's been such a great opportunity to take a closer look at where I might still be carrying grudges and resentment, and really take another look at clearing out some of the old storehouse of things that are there in the back of the mind. So it was very interesting. I can tell you the definitions of these mental factors. Anger is one thing and a resentment is another. But somehow I had not made the connection that resentment was actually anger. I mean, I knew it was subsumed within anger, but somehow for me, I never it never sunk in that every moment of resentment is a moment of anger. So that's been quite powerful to own. Resentment is a persistent feeling of ill will due to some past harm, and there is some refusal of letting go of that thought of harm. A person may have harmed us once or twice, or in some situations, maybe many times. But how many times am I willing to harm myself by calling it to mind? It's quite interesting. It's been interesting also to see how resentment comes with an identity. I am a person who has been wronged. Therefore, I am justified in my resentment. And besides, it's not full-blown anger, so it's okay to have a little resentment. We may feel harmed in different situations. What we really wanted in the situation was some consideration from another person, maybe some respect, or maybe some compassion or empathy. And when we don't get that kind of care that we wanted, then we respond with anger. But anger, no matter how mild, comes at a cost, a very high price. Resentment too. Because when we close our heart to one person, we can't just selectively close our heart to one person. We close our heart, and then it impacts our other relationships as well. Anger and resentment are painful to maintain, and they really work against our goals, what we really want to achieve. We may not have manifest anger over a situation, but we can really check to see if we've let go of things by calling the person or the incident to mind, and just notice if it brings a little bit of discomfort. Or if you notice a whole tirade of thoughts of revenge that you'd never act on, but there they are, here they come. So if each of us did a little mental inventory, then we might be surprised to find some old resentments that we hadn't quite identified as anger still lurking in the back of our mind. I think this is one of the benefits of doing equanimity meditation, because each time we do that meditation, we call to mind a friend, a stranger, and an enemy. And sometimes I find it difficult to really identify someone I would put in that category. And I start feeling bad if I put the same person in that category day after day. But it's a good reminder that, okay, I'm still holding on to something here, and I haven't quite let it go. So when we become aware of any resentment, large or small, then this is the time to apply the antidotes to anger. And there are many, and you know many of them, and you probably practice many of them. But the ones that have really shed light in my own practice lately is thinking about preventing anger at all. What a concept. Just prevent it. And so how do we do that? We have to be so familiar with the disadvantages of anger that we don't even want to go near it. We don't want to touch it. Of course, the benefits of developing patience and loving kindness, thinking of karma. But what about understanding why others harm us? How deeply have we taken that on board? Really understanding that no matter how someone harms us or is disrespectful to us, they're wanting to be happy. Isn't that crazy? They're wanting to be happy in that moment, and they think that that harmful action is going to bring them some kind of satisfaction. Just knowing that can help to open our hearts. Understanding that anger and resentment harms us first and foremost is a very powerful antidote too. There was someone at UU who brought up that old adage that holding on to anger and resentment is like holding on to 2 hot coals and expecting them to burn somebody else. And it's so vivid, isn't it? So I used that as an antidote this last week. When I notice little resentments coming up, I think, drop it, you're burning yourself, drop it, just drop it. It can be a very powerful thing to keep in mind. Also, another idea to entertain is to see that a lot of our resentments come from our own expectations that weren't met. And so when I can recognize that, then I can take responsibility for those expectations. And when I started applying this to a lot of the old resentments that I noticed in the back of my mind, I found that most of them came out of unmet expectations, my own unmet needs. I wanted people to meet my standard, whatever that may be. And when they didn't, then I became angry. So that was very powerful to accept and own. And also developing a different level of compassion, understanding that just as someone is harming me, I've done the same thing. And when I have harmed others, I've hoped that others would have some compassion for me and give me some space, some leeway, some understanding. And so why am I not now willing to give that to this other person? In the book, Working with Anger, Venerable couches the idea of forgiveness. There are many ways we could talk about forgiveness, but Venerable describes it as simply stop tying up our energy by being angry and resentful. In other words, just stop being angry. It has nothing to do with the other person, actually. It has to do with our own mind. And also keeping in mind, as one of the UU students said so eloquently, when I let go of resentment, I'm the person who benefits. I'm much happier, I'm much lighter. And so in a meditation this last week, I was just calling to mind these little resentments carried from many years past, and just imagining them dispersing, just letting go, and then just feeling the lightness. And it was such a beautiful feeling that came over me that I want to continue doing that. So I've really appreciated the opportunity to put anger and resentment under the microscope and look at it a little more closely and practice it a little more earnestly. So thanks.